Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Myatt, and I am the chairperson for the Attainable Housing Task Force here in Saugeen Shores. And for the next hour or so, our panel looks forward to hearing about your housing concerns and housing needs. Just to give you some background in regards to how we arrived at where we are today, the Attainable Housing Task Force has been meeting for about 8 months or so. And I want to say a big thank you to the entire Attainable Housing Task Force. And some of the volunteers are on the call today, on the Zoom call. You've been terrific, and I just want to thank you to all of our volunteers. Our main goal from the beginning with our Attainable Housing Task Force was to make housing more affordable and attainable here in Saugeen Shores. And we're working very hard and behind the scenes to, to make this happen. Here are a few things that our Housing Task Force has been working on. And 800 residents responded to our community survey a month or two ago. We heard lots of great comments about housing needs here in our community. We thank all those people for filling out those surveys and participating in this process. We did hold 4 key stakeholder meetings with over 30 participants sharing their thoughts and recommendations about housing here in Saugeen Shores. Staff have met with land developers, and we have investigated housing options ranging from tiny homes, 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, apartments, rent, geared income housing, and laneway homes. And when we talk about the 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments, we're working really hard in terms of finding those apartments that are, $600 a month, $900 a month, $1,200 a month for 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments. We know how prices have escalated, and the apartment units, $1,800 to $2,500 is not working for a lot of people. So we really want to try and fix that. So today is our final step towards finalizing housing recommendations, and we plan to present these recommendations to Saugeen Shores Council early in January. And there's some 30 to 40 recommendations that we have put together, and there'll be some new ideas come out of this this open forum today, and we'll be adding those to our recommendations. We know people are hurting. It's been a real eye opener since this process started, back in April, May, and it's been an eye opener for me, and I know it's been a real eye opener for the entire Attainable Housing Task Force. And so we have listened. We have made lots of notes, and we hope to make some progress. We know the rental costs have skyrocketed here in Saugeen Shores, and it's just not good enough, to accept that, to see people moving outside of this community, finding accommodation cheaper, and we lose our valued residents to other communities, and we need to stop that. At least reduce it if we can. As we know, it's become more difficult to find attainable housing, affordable housing. And our task force has talked about, the average household price, to get invested here in Saugeen Shores, $525,000, not acceptable. And, we need to work towards doing something about that. So we're working hard. Finding attainable and affordable housing is a real issue. And we do really sincerely want to help you. We want to fix the problem. Before we introduce our panel for this evening, this afternoon, I should say, I would like to extend a personal thank you to all who have registered to participate in the Zoom meeting, and to those who are listening in. And I'm just looking at the attendees on the right-hand side, and we thank you for attending. It's really important that you're here today. So what have we been up to, and what is the composition of our Attainable Housing Task Force? Our Housing Task Force is made up of those who are self-employed. We have committee members who are employed at a variety of income levels. We have retirees represented. We have community volunteers who see the impact on our local residents with the lack of housing at the pricing that we need to get to. And our Housing Task Force also includes those experienced in housing industry who see firsthand the rapidly rising demand for all types of housing, both tenants looking for rentals and those looking to purchase their first home, and their very first home, very first time. And right now, it's just become so much more difficult to get in at the ground level. So as you can see, our Attainable Housing Task Force includes a very broad representation our community. And again, thank you to our entire committee for the great work you've done. I look forward to hearing your comments today. Before we go there, I want to introduce our panel, and I know John's going to mention this. If you decide you want to speak today, I think John's going to mention that, we'd like to restrict about 1 to 2 minutes roughly, a little bit longer perhaps. We're trying to get to the 2 minute. And I know we have some taped audio, some visuals coming in that we're limited to that, 1.5 to 2 minutes, just to kind of try and keep the meeting moved along. And John's going to cover that off in a minute. But first, I'd like to say hi to John Van Basselaar and welcome John. John, just give a wave. So John is our former mayor of the town of Port Albion. Goes back 20 years, but he's former mayor, and has always expressed interest in helping to solve our affordable and attainable housing crisis here right in Saugeen Shores. And John and I will be co-moderating today. So again, a big welcome and thank you to John. And next is Jay Posner, and Jay's our little wave there, Jay. Jay is our planning supervisor, and Jay has done just a remarkable, just a tremendous amount of work to get us where we are today. And Jay, I can't say thank you enough for, for all the good work you've done as our staff representative liaison on the Attainable Housing Task Force. And Sarah Wilson's on the call today too. She's making some notes and helping people navigate through the system here. And I want to say a big thank you to Jay, or to Sarah rather. We could not have done it without you. So thank you, Jay and Sarah. Many of you probably talked to Jay when registering for today. And finally, Councillor Cheryl Grace. A little later in the program, Cheryl will be commenting on the area of homelessness, and she will also discuss where we go from here. So Cheryl, welcome. And Cheryl's been a Southampton ward councillor since 2014. So we've sat in the same council chambers for the last 6 years, and I have the utmost respect for Councillor Cheryl Gray. She does a wonderful job in the community as a member of council. We thank you, Cheryl. And in addition to being a member of the Attainable Housing Task Force, Cheryl is leading a task force subcommittee to coordinate homelessness and social resources in Saugeen Shores. Now, I know we were talking about attainable housing and affordable housing, but our committee's kind of strayed into that area with homelessness, and Cheryl's going to talk about it a little bit later. I'm glad we went there. I think it's really important to talk about that important area. So Cheryl's going to talk about that in a minute. Matter of fact, well, we'll go to, first of all, I think, John, what we'll do, I'm going to send it back to you as co-moderator, and you can take it from here, John.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much for that introduction. And before I start, Mike, thank you for your work as a chair and your enthusiasm through this whole process. We started back in January last year, meeting in the library, a couple of us, to draw this all up and to identify the issue. And as you can imagine, people out there that are listening, we thought of the issue, but we have to confirm what the issue is. And that's before we even started this. We really had to find out what the need was out in the community. And that was so important, because if you want to deal with housing and homelessness, we really got to find the extent, and we have to talk to the people that are involved and stakeholders that are involved. So we got started with our terms of reference, and we moved along. And I have to admit, from my perspective, I'm pretty well sure I can talk about all the people on the task force. We learned a lot in the last 8 months. It's been fantastic amount what we've learned, and we've really had our eyes opened. And we talked to stakeholders, we talked to United Way, we talked to 30 some people, key people and organizations in this town about homelessness. And we really had our eyes open. And we really thought it was so worthwhile. But also we heard during the last few months that how come you're not talking to people that are in that situation? So we knew that was an issue, and we wanted to address that. And that's what we're here today with these two meetings, is to actually get public input and talk to people that have been in that situation or are currently in this situation, to really find out, and to find out ourselves what the need is and the extent of the need, but also give you an opportunity to voice your concerns. We don't want to get into why you're there, or we don't want to get into what's going to happen, because we're just a task force. We're starting this. We're at the very beginning. There's going to be many years of planning and based on our need, decision making, but we can't do that today. We're just working on what the needs are today and trying to get a real good picture of what's happening in this community. So we are really interested in hearing from, again, from stakeholders that they would like to speak, but mainly from the public. And what we have today, which is really good, we have some videos and we have some email testimonies. We're going to split that up a bit, but we're going to start with that. We're going to basically show you some examples. And once you see those examples before and after, those that are listening, hopefully, as we're all challenged, Zoom challenged, hopefully that we can give you the opportunity through Jay and Sarah that you can have an opportunity to talk to us visually, or you can talk to us without vision. We just ask that you don't give your full name. If you want to just give your first name, and talk about your experiences with homelessness, some of the issues of short-term stays, how you started out moving here, all those type of things. What final product? What do you think you'll need in 5 years? All those type of things currently. Again, I want to highlight not what's in the future, because not too much in the future. We're really going to try and understand what's going on and what's our first. So you can understand, we have to focus what we want to do first and get the best bang for our dollar within this community. And that's important. So we really need your input. And I think I covered that, Mike. What do you think? Is that anything else I missed? Or
No, John, I think you've done a great job introducing, and Jay's, I think, is going to run with a video, maybe in a testimonial. And I think that was a good introduction. Thank you, John.
Okay, so now it's going to happen, folks. As you can see, and I'll highlight, behind Jay, you see a nice sign, and that's his email address. And you see below his beautiful face there that his name and email is actually, he looks like one of those game shows pointing at the email. But anyways, Jay's email is there. So please, if you do not feel like you would like to speak today, send Jay an email of your situation. The who, what, when type of thing, where. And just give us that whole background that you are experiencing right now. Send that into us, because as a task force, we need that information. How do we decide if we need a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments, how many houses we need, how many rooming houses we need, whatever it may be, without your input? We need that information. You are listening today. We got upwards of 16 people today. If you don't, give us your information, but spread it in the community. If you know other people in that situation, get them to send an email to Jay. Mark that email down and please get it sent in to us. We need it as soon as you can, but there's no time limit. Just bring it to us. So now, Jay, I think I've covered that, and I've got you front row center. We're going to start off with a video of a person in town dealing with affordable housing, attainable housing. And we're also going to read a testimonial from an email. And Jay, I'll turn it over to you if you could do that first, please.
Thank you. And after I play the video, I'll provide some technical instructions for how you can, in a very technical way, participate. I'll give it a second to start. I'm sharing my screen, but I'll turn it over to our testimonial.
An outline of the issues that we have with the housing crisis in Saugeen Shores.
People with money or existing property owners buying up houses to flip and sell at prices we can't afford. Anything we can't afford needs expensive money put into it.
People have taken advantage of this pandemic. Both demand and price for properties in this area are way up. And as a result, the vast majority of purchases are places being used as investments rather than actual residences.
Bidding wars on affordable properties knock us out of contention for obtaining it.
People that were born and grew up here have limited access to sustainable jobs outside of one industry, and the housing prices don't reflect that. Both the median income of this town, and the median house price is way off.
And even rental properties are becoming ridiculous. There's a lot of the population in town that are on fixed incomes, and they're financial situation stays the same, but the rental prices keep going up.
Minimum wage income, retail jobs that are here, and service jobs, there has to be affordable housing for everyone, for these people to live in.
Even in the past 7 years since I've been here, the housing prices have just skyrocketed to prices that first-time home buyers cannot afford.
This greatly affects our entire lives and future.
We cannot grow, and we cannot expand, and we cannot start a family and move forward because everything is just too expensive.
We want to be part of this community. It means everything to us.
Thank you. And I'll read another one if that's okay, John. And then I'll explain how they can participate. This one was from Brenda. I was born and raised in Port Elgin, and though I have lived in cities and other provinces in the last 25 years, there's something about Port Elgin that keeps bringing me back. It would be my dream to live here forever. For the past 2 years, I've been working at a small business that's been operating for decades in town. It's an amazing job with outstanding owners and one what I would like to work at for a long time. Thankfully, I'm privileged enough to be able to live with my family in Port Elgin, but it's time for me to have my own space and get out of my family's house. My preference would be to own a home and contribute taxes to the community. Since it's just myself and my dog, my ideal housing would be a small detached house. Only 200 to 800 square feet is needed. I sometimes check the rental market to see what's available, but I would need a rental space for less than $1,000 a month, and I haven't seen anything for under that amount. Obstacles I've faced are money and size. While I'm privileged enough to have enough saved for a down payment, my maximum is about $150,000 less than the least expensive detached house listed for sale. And the least expensive detached house for sale currently has a living space over 1,500 square feet, which would be way too large for just myself. After looking for an affordable rental or detached house in my price and size range for 2 years, I've looked at options and currently looking for a house within about a 4-hour drive of Port Elgin. That way I can spend weekends there and stay with the same family members in Port Elgin through the week while I'm working. I'm not sure how long that would be sustainable or how long I can stay with family. I'd also be open to and would love an out-of-the-box option so that I could create a small, affordable, environmentally friendly place to live in Port Elgin. I'd be happy in a bunkie or shed converted to tiny home in my family member's backyard if that were an option. So but in order to participate directly, and we'll be providing another video and written testimonial later. Another way to participate is through the Zoom. When you called upon by John or Mike, you can press the little raise hand button. Sarah and I will both see that. And when queued up by Mike or John, we can invite you to respectfully provide your input, and we'll try to do it in an orderly way. But bear with us. Where I, at least, I shouldn't speak for everybody. I'm always fumbling around with technology. But thank you, John.
Thanks, Jay. And again, remember Jay's email address. If you do want to talk to other people, make sure you send them in. But is there anybody out there now who would like to speak to us or to talk about their situation? We invite you now to raise your hand and let Jay get you on screen, or if you don't want to go out on screen, that's fine too. Whatever way you like. We need your public input, as I said before. Is there anybody there, Jay, is jumping right up, or do you want us to keep going here?
No, none yet, though I received another email just a few minutes ago from the Y Housing Stability email, so I can do that now if you'd like.
Yeah, let's go with another email then.
A housing support worker is working with a client who's been sober for 3 months and has been utilizing emergency shelter. The client's income is subsidized through Ontario Works, equaling to just over $700 per month. Obtaining a safe and fitting rental with this low income is challenging. The only options for clients like this are staying with friends or family or obtaining a room rental. For some with this income, they may be experiencing mental health or substance issues. Therefore, a room rental may not be realistic. This particular client has been working towards obtaining work by helping a motel with maintenance and connecting with VPI, an employment agency. However, even if he obtains part-time work, he knows that he'll have to have a challenge obtaining other affordable housing. He explained, an apartment would be great if I was making, say, 20 bucks an hour, and at the end of the month after paying my rent, I wasn't broke and struggling to eat and keep food in the fridge. So what good is an apartment if you ain't got no happiness, no comfort, no joy? All it is a jail cell that you have to pay for and work your ass off to be miserable in. It's as bad as a drug addiction. After explaining why he does not want an apartment, he explained why he wants a tent. I'd be happier in a tent or some little shack I built in the bush than a bachelor or one-bedroom apartment that I am paying close to 800 plus utilities nowadays. My main goal is to live completely off-grid. I want to build a little spot in the woods somewhere that I have running off solar power or a generator. I know the camping thing's out of the norm, but for me, it's more the fulfillment and accomplishment of being self-sufficient and self-reliant. Okay, John.
Thank you, Jay. Pretty powerful, Mike.
It is, John, and my heart goes out, to these people. I've heard from a fair number of people over the last 8 months, and it hits home. John, I'm going to share a personal story myself. I came from a family of 7. My mom, worked cleaning motel rooms and waited on tables. My dad was a custodian and moonlighted for a second job. They both had 2 jobs, and it was hard to make ends meet. I can relate, and there's people hurting out there. There's more poverty out there in our community that we realize, and when I hear about people needing a rental for an apartment, 2-bedroom, $900, I respect that. And our Attainable Housing Task Force, we respect that. We understand that. That's why we started this process a year ago. We need those $600 per month rental for 1-bedroom and $900 for 2-bedroom and $1,200 for 3. People trying to find accommodations here. A good friend of mine called just a week or 2 ago, making $40,000 a year and paying $1,800 a month plus utilities. It's difficult. It's hard, and so we get it. This Attainable Housing Task Force, we've been listening. We've got some pretty solid recommendations that we're coming to council with in January, and we're going to do whatever we can to add more housing stock that's more affordable, more attainable. So anyways, that's kind of a segue, John, into Cheryl Grace is going to speak next. And just before she speaks, there's opportunity here for people to wave their hand here today, and we'll let you in to speak if you care to. We'd love to hear from you. So there will be opportunity after Cheryl speaks, and there's a couple more testimonials, but we would like to hear a couple of people chime in today if you can see your way to preparing. Don't be shy about it. We just really want to hear from people. So anyway, Cheryl, I want to introduce you again. And Cheryl's, throughout the Attainable Housing Task Force process, we strayed a bit into the homelessness and the whole social services aspect, and it wasn't really intended as much as it just happened, and I'm glad it did. Because there are more people living out there in our community on poverty and living behind Walmart and living in kiosks than you might realize. It's kind of a hidden problem. I wasn't aware of it as much as until I started this whole process. I found out we've got some real issues in town, and we're gonna work on that. But Cheryl, can you just talk a little bit about how we kind of ventured into homelessness and just a little bit of what you found out over the last few months?
Sure. Thank you, Mike. And Mike talked earlier about our task force stakeholder meetings. So we had groups like the United Way, the YMCA, which provides a lot of emergency housing in our area. Even though they're based in Owen Sound, they do provide emergency shelter arrangements and support for people who are living in our community. And I know I was not aware of that. Their reach was that extensive, and they've been a wonderful resource. But when we heard about this problem from a number of sources, homelessness and all of the problems that go with that, food insecurity and other types of extreme challenges in living. We also realize that the homeless are largely invisible in our town. Our town is thought of as being very prosperous, and it is. It does have a high average household income. But we realize that this is a problem and that we need to do what we can to reach out to everyone in our community. So our task force formed a subcommittee to find out who the homeless are in our community and how we can best help them. The Ontario Human Rights Commission says that adequate housing is essential to one's sense of dignity, safety, inclusion, and ability to contribute to the fabric of our neighborhoods and societies. We certainly agree. For our whole community to be strong, we need to do what we can to support everyone in that community. Our subcommittee's current focus right now is to collect information to help those in Saugeen Shores who are homeless, who need food and other types of social support. Outside of our committee, progress is already being made. In the last few weeks, our own Saugeen Shores Police Force has partnered with the Canadian Mental Health Association, Grey Bruce Mental Health and Addiction Services, and several other police services across the region to expand upon an existing program that supports people experiencing mental health or addictions crises. We're also very grateful that Saugeen Shores Police Chief Kevin Zettel is working with our homelessness subcommittee, and our police continue their tradition of providing social support for our needy residents.
Thanks very much, Cheryl, and well said. And again, I'm pleased it was a good thing that our Attainable Housing Task Force, went straight into that area, because it's an area I think that we're going to hear a lot more of over the next 6 months, a year from your subcommittee. So thank you for all the good work you're doing. And before I turn it back to John, I just wanted to ask Jay again. Jay, just the process for people to be signed in to speak. They waive. How do they do that again technically? Again, Jay, just remind people how they would be able to be brought in.
Yes, they can. There's at the bottom of the screen. If they're on a desktop, there's a raise hand button. If you're using a handheld device, there is in the app a button that they can press as well. It'll show up on our screen that they're interested in participating, and then will be Sarah or myself will be able to make you able to speak or bring you in if you want to participate directly.
Thanks, Jay. And so Cheryl and John, are you seeing the little hand at the bottom of your screen?
Oh,
see it there? I'm just looking for it.
You're a panelist, you don't see it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay. I wasn't seeing the hand. So that explains it. So I appreciate so the people listening in, they'll see a little hand at the bottom. They touch that, and then we can bring them in. So
I have can I bear with me if you can indulge a comment? There is a few people that want to participate because of some technical limitations with what we have. We aren't able to accommodate them necessarily today, but I have definitely encouraged you can email today, or if you want to call me at the office, just not during the meeting. I'd be happy to take notes about your comments. I don't have my phone number, but if you call the main office and ask for me, you can obviously get a hold of me that way.
So Jay, are you saying that the people today who wanted to speak on the attendee side, or when they put their hand up, were not allowed, for technical reasons, we're not able to bring them in to speak? Is that what you're saying?
What one person has wanted to speak, and they might write in to the staff so we can share this evening as well.
Okay, so John, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Cheryl, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm working with Cheryl on that also. We've learned a lot in the last few weeks about homelessness and mental health. So that's a great area that we'll work with. I'll give you an example. I'm helping at the food bank, and I helped Gary last week. He walked out to the food bank because his vehicle wasn't working, and he lives downtown Saugeen in a motel, and it's been over a year he's been in the hotel, and he didn't have a ride home. So I gave him a ride home and talked to him for a bit, and he said he's he was getting pretty tired of microwave meals and living out of a small fridge. So it's just a small testimonial, but it's just amazing that somebody could have to live in a motel room for a year, which with no cooking facilities or any type of room. And our previous person that wrote in, that was pretty interesting listening to somebody referring to an apartment as a jail cell. But you could see that if you can't afford anything else, not even with food insecurity and entertainment, anything, if it all goes to the rent. So, I mean, there's some real powerful testimonies out there, and we need to hear that. And before I turn over to Jay, we're going to show our next video and then mention another email we have, right, Jay?
Yeah,
But again, before we do that, 2 more, right? So before we do that, again, people, if you can, if you do want to participate, we're here. We're here to listen. But if you don't make it today, if there has been a problem, I know Zoom is a challenge for a lot of individuals. It's been for us for the whole year also. Please write in. Please write in to Jay and give us your information. We need that information. Okay, Jay, are you ready to go?
I am.
Hi, my name is Karina Fleming. I am a 35-year-old woman that owns a pretty successful business in Saugeen Shores. I am currently living in a 3-bedroom apartment with my 2 boys. I would love to be able to purchase a starter home for us because we live in a loft and we don't have a yard or anything like that. But the prices in Saugeen Shores are insane. And if you own a small business or you're self-employed, it's pretty much impossible to get a loan for the type of housing that is around here. I don't foresee myself ever really being able to afford it unless something drastically changes in my financial situation or the housing market. Yeah, that's pretty much my story. The apartment that we're in now is great, but my landlord is trying to sell the building, and if she does sell the building, we will definitely be without housing, and I am not sure that I could even afford a rental space for the prices that are in the area. So thanks very much for listening to my story, and that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks.
Yes, I've got 2 more written testimonials, and if there are no other brave souls, we'll still encourage more hand raising if you can, even if someone just wants to test it out. You don't have to share. We just want to make sure the technology works, if that's something. But while we're doing that, I'll read the testimonials. This one's from Carrie. My son and his girlfriend recently moved to Walkerton because he could not find affordable housing in Saugeen Shores. He's now in a brand new 2-bedroom apartment that has all new stainless appliances, granite countertops for $1,200 a month. This is the same amount I paid for my mortgage when I built a home back in 2003. They'd love to have a home of their own in Saugeen Shores that is affordable. My first mortgage was $660 a month in 1998 for a house when interest rates were 6.5%. Not sure we could ever get housing at that price again, but if it was possible to build housing for these young families where $1,200 to $1,400 would cover their monthly expenses, that'd be wonderful. And I have another one from Melissa. I'm a full-time Bruce Power worker for 19 years. I'm a single mom of 4 children and can't get approved for a mortgage more than $350,000, as I don't make $100,000 a year. My rent and utilities for a 3-bedroom house are at nearly $3,000 a month. Add car payments and groceries, and my paychecks are absorbed. I can't manage to save for a sizable down payment to put down for a 3-bedroom townhouses. Townhouses are now selling above $400,000. So those are the 2 quick written testimonials.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for that input. We really do appreciate it. It's something that we needed to hear, and everybody in this town needs to hear. Right, Mike?
Well, John, and I agree. And, one of the things, I heard, and it does break my heart when I hear, the mom and dad that their son and daughter-in-law and 2 kids had to move to Walkerton, which is a wonderful town, but like to keep them right here in Saugeen Shores. They went there for a 2-bedroom apartment, including the stainless steel pots and pans, and so they had a bit of upgrade, obviously, but for for $1,200 a month for 2-bedroom, apartment, wouldn't it be nice to keep people here for $900 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment? And those are the kinds of things that we're going to work on over the next 6 months, 2 years, to try and see if we can increase our housing stock. And we're already talking to some contractors, developers, say, hey, look, can you help us? Can you help the situation? Can you build those 1, 2, 3-bedroom apartments for $600, $900, $1,200 versus $1,800 to $2,400? It's not working for some people. So we really do need to address that. So to that young couple that moved to Walkerton, and to those listening, and to our community, we're going to work hard on that. So again, we're just winding it down here. I know Cheryl's going to do some closing comments, and I'd like to add a few more comments at the end, but I just wanted to throw it, back out to our attendees. It's around 15, 20 attendees. Just before we close, if anyone, would like to, click on that button at the bottom and put their hand up just to make any comments about, are we on the right track? Do you like what you're hearing? We're more than welcome to hear your comments right now, whether it's, you can be brief as you want, but again, any comments we'll document. So
We have a hand raised here, Mike, if you.
Pardon me, Jay?
Someone raised their hand, by the way.
Okay, well, if we could, Jay, could we let that person in?
You would allow them to talk, I guess, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, Dave Shorey, Innovation Officer for the Municipal Innovation Council. I just want to thank you folks for pulling this together. And you're providing leadership in the community that really matters. I'll just say that what I'm starting to hear is that attainable housing, affordable housing is a concern across Bruce County. And that, there's wonderful economic opportunity, but it is creating these pressures on the market. So there are, a number of municipalities, Northern Bruce Peninsula, Kincardine, Walkerton, they're all starting to have similar conversations around attainable housing. And so, this is something that's really felt in Saugeen Shores, and it's felt beyond Saugeen Shores as well. And so the work that you're doing, you are providing a lot of leadership, I think, not just in Saugeen Shores, but beyond Saugeen Shores, to help other communities start to make sense as to what's going on, and to maybe identify some of the resources and some of the strategies that can help to address this issue. Myself, from a personal note, this is a story that I share with a couple of my friends, and growing up in Southampton, leaving for school, and then looking at coming back, it's pretty hard to get into the housing market, even if you've got a decent paying job. It has inflated considerably, and I think we've seen that in a lot of rural communities actually over the last year. Even in the last year, we've got a sort of urban exodus that is also fueling demand and putting pressures on demand. So, I mean, we're looking at it in terms of my family. We're looking at some challenges in getting into the housing market as well. So it's felt by a lot of people at varying levels.
Dave, thanks so much for your comments, and you really hit home with your comments, and it's not just Saugeen Shores. I mean, it's happening across the province, no doubt, right across Canada, with the housing crisis, and I think that's why the provincial federal government is starting to, to open up their coffers to help municipalities and counties to invest monies into into lower cost rental units. So we're going to work hard, and in these recommendations we're making to council in January, we're going to really work hard over the next 6 months, a year, to see what we can roll out with developers and county partnerships, wherever we may need to go. We're going to work hard to do those things. So thank you for your comments. Jay, are any other hands up at this point in time?
Not at this point.
Okay. Well, Cheryl, I'm going to go ahead, John. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Dave for bringing up a couple of points on why the housing is so high here, and some of the aspects that are putting pressures on our housing. That's very good that we can hear some of this. A person that has a job and as a family still finding it difficult. So it just showed the whole spectrum of housing, how that need is, it's far reaching, and it goes across the population, across age groups. We haven't even heard from seniors at all this evening or this afternoon, and hopefully we could sometime. But we've talked to them and we found out that there's some issues with seniors also. So it's good to hear from you, David, that we certainly appreciate that, and we'll take note.
Yeah, for sure, John. And we've had good feedback from Habitat for Humanity. We've had good feedback from Francisca Dobbin from United Way. We've had really good feedback from Joan Chamney from Family Y and other agencies, and from the Poverty Task Force. And so we've heard from these groups, from key stakeholders, and we're piecing it all together. And from the 800 people who filled out those surveys, we've had good feedback. So anyways, I'm going to Jay and John one more time, and because we're going to close it up here. Sherry, you can do some closing comments, but I'm going to throw it one more time out to our list of attendees, and it gives one last chance for a hand up, and if not, then we're going to move on. So seeing none, Jay?
Oh,
Okay,
they just
Cheryl.
don't want to talk out loud, they can email me.
Sure, for sure. Cheryl, I'm just going to ask you if you wouldn't mind just kind of outlining, what's next, where we go from here, and what we can look for.
Thank you, Mike. From our whole committee, a heartfelt thanks to those who participated tonight. I'm sure you're wondering what happens to this information and how we will use this to produce real housing options that will help you, your family, and friends. Understanding how various housing needs affect Saugeen Shores residents is essential to add a valuable personal perspective, putting faces to the numbers, facts, and recommendations that we'll be outlining in our public report to Council, which we expect to be presenting in January. Our task force is committed to bring recommendations to Council and staff so our town can implement policy changes to increase attainable housing options as soon as we possibly can. And your participation today will help to make that possible. So thank you very much, and we hope to hear more from you.
Absolutely. Thanks for those comments, Cheryl. And my closing remarks as the chair of the Attainable Housing Task Force. Again, a big thank you to all those people that filled out the surveys, people that attended the key stakeholder meetings, the people on the call today, listened in, send your comments to Jay. I think it's coming together nicely. You'll hear a lot more about this in January when we make our final report to Council with our presentation. And hopefully we can make good things happen over the next 1, 2, 3 years. So John, you can close her up.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks everyone for your contributions today. We have a few that we have half a dozen today, but we do expect, and we are certainly open to all input. So if you feel at any time you would like to send us something, mail us something, whatever way, Jay Posner, get a hold of him. You can call him at the town office also. Please give us that information if you feel like it's important to us to hear from people involved in our home attainable housing, in our housing situation in Saugeen Shores. Thank you, and thanks for everyone on the task force, and Mike for putting this together, and all the people that got involved. It's been, as we had heard from our participant, we're making this aware in Bruce County. So let's keep it up.
Thank you, John.
Thank
and
you.
if I could just ask the task force to stay on the call, and so people who are attending, thanks so much for joining us today.